Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're joining me. Hope all is well, and I'm going to dive straight in. So, for those who haven't seen these before, it's Sanhedrin from the Talmud Bavli with the Steinsaltz edition, commentaries publication. I'm on Daf 29, Amud A, which is in Perek 3. So, this Amud starts halfway through a sentence, so just go back to the end of the previous daf. The Gemara relates, the sons of the father-in-law of Mar Ukva were relatives of his and became not related to him, as Mar Ukva's wife, who was their sister, died. They came before him for judgment. Mar Ukva said to them, I am qualified for adjudicating for you. And he said to Mar Ukva, what is your opinion according to which you disqualify yourself? Do you, according to the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, that since you have children we are still relatives, we should bring a letter from the West Eretz Yisrael that the halacha is not in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. My Uber said to them, is that to say that I am stuck with you with a cap of wax, a kila? Kila is wax from the Greek kilos, meaning wax. I agree that we are not considered relatives. I am saying that I am disqualified from adjudicating for you only because you do not obey the verdict. And I do not wish to participate in such judgment. The Mishnah teaches that according to Rabbi Yehuda, one who loves or one who hates one of the litigants is qualified by a witness. One who loves one of the litigants is referring to his groomsman. What's groomsman? Shuravin. The groomsman mentioned here was a close friend of the groom and accompanied him during the wedding festivities. The groomsman will also give a gift to the groom and prepare him a festive meal. This was a moral and even illegal obligation to return the favor of serving as a groomsman. The groomsman would in turn invite the groom to be a groomsman at his own wedding. The Gemara asks, about how long is the groomsman disqualified? Rabbi Abba says that Rabbi Yirmiyah says that Rav says, throughout all the 7 days of feasting. And the rabbi is saying the name of Rava, even from the first day after his wedding and onward. The Ramah writes that those who interpret the Gemara as follows. And with regard to the rabbis who disagree with Rabbi Yehuda, what do they hold? The sages said that even from the first day after the wedding and onward, the groomsman is not disqualified. The Ramah himself interprets that Rabbi Yirmiyah deems the groomsman disqualified, according to Rabbi Yehuda, only if he was his groomsman for the entire 7 days of feasting. Whereas Rava holds that even if he was his groomsman for only the first day, he is disqualified. He is disqualified only on the wedding day itself. The Mishnah teaches, one who hates a litigant is referring to anyone who out of enmity did not speak with the litigant for 3 days. The sages taught in the Bible, this is halacha derived from the verse, and he was not his enemy, neither sought his harm, Numbers 35:23, that one about whom it can be stated, and he was not his enemy, can testify about him, and one who neither sought his harm can judge him. The Gemara asks, we found a source for this qualification of one who hates. But where do we derive that one who loves is disqualified? The Gemara answers that one should read into the verse like this: about whom it can be stated, and he who was not his enemy, no one who loves him can testify about him, and one who neither sought his harm nor his favor can judge him. The Gemara asks, is one who loves him written in the verse? How can the verse be read in this manner? Well, the extent of this qualification is one who loves him as well. It is based on logical reasoning. What is reason an enemy is qualified for bearing witness? It is because he feels a sense of aversion toward that individual and might testify falsely against him. A similar logic can be employed with regard to one who loves. As well, he feels a sense of affinity toward that individual and might testify falsely on his behalf. The Gemara asks, and from what did the rabbis who do not agree with Rabbi Yehuda derive from this verse? And he was not his enemy, neither sought his harm. The Gemara answers, one part of the verse is necessary for the halacha that a judge who loves or hates one of the litigants is disqualified. A dayan, a judge. It's prohibited for a man to judge one whom he loves, even if he is not his groomsman or his close friend, or to judge one whom he hates, even though he is not his enemy. The two litigants will be equally added. The judge is in accordance with the opinion of the rabbis, disqualified one from who loves or hates one of the litigants from serving with the judge, and that's in the case of Mishnah. Some authorities hold that if he is not a crucified enemy, he is not halachically disqualified from judging him, but avoiding from doing so as an act of piety. That's from the Rabbin Sefer Shoftim Hilchot Sanhedrin 23:6, Shulchan Aruch Hashem Mitzvah 7:7, and the comment of Omar. The rabbis agree with this halacha, as such a judge is naturally inclined to favour one of the litigants. The other part of the verse interprets in accordance with that which is taught in the Brayta. Rabbi Yossi, son of Rabbi Yehuda, says, with regard to the verse that he was not his enemy, neither sought his harm, it is derived from here that two Torah scholars who hate each other, Talmidei Chacham she'nosin zeh zeh, it's prohibited for two Torah scholars who hate each other to sit together in judgment, lest due to their hatred that one will contradict the other wrongfully. This is according to the opinion of Rabbi Yossi, son of Rabbi Yehuda. They are told enemy the judgment is qualified even after the fact. Rabbin Sefer Shoftim Hilchot Sanhedrin 23:7, 7:8 cannot sit in judgment together as one. Because of their hatred, they will come to contradict each other's rulings unjustly. How do the judges examine the witnesses? They bring them into a room in the courthouse and intimidate them so that they will speak only the truth. And they take all the people other than the judges outside. It would seem as Kol HaHodam. The Och Laneh explains that this is done so that the witnesses will not be ashamed to admit that they lied. Accordingly, the litigants do not need to leave as they know the truth in any case. So that they should not tell the other witnesses the questions the judge asks and the answers the first witness gives, as they leave only the elders of the witness to testify first. And they say to him, say how exactly you know that this litigant owes money to that litigant, and the plaintiff claims. If he said, the defendant said to me, is true, I owe the plaintiff. Or if he says, so-and-so said to me that the defendant owes the plaintiff, the witness has said nothing, and his testimony is disregarded. It is not valid testimony unless he says, the early commentators discuss the difference between the first case and the Mishnah, where the witness says, the defendant said to me, it is true that I owe the plaintiff, and in this case, where the witness says, the defendant admitted in our presence to the plaintiff that he owed him, the Baal Mahamor explains that in the first case, the plaintiff admitted the owing the debt in the presence of each witness separately, but admitting the presence of one witness is not significant. According to the latter case, the admission was stated in the presence of both witnesses. The Ramban explains otherwise. That in the first case, the defendant merely stated in the presence of two people that he owed the money, when in the latter case, he specified that the litigants should act as witnesses into his admission to the man. The defendant admitted in our presence to the plaintiff that he owed him each of 200 dinars. By admitting the debt in the presence of witnesses, the man is liable to pay the amount that he mentioned, and afterward they bring in a second witness and examine him in the same manner. Chakiras ha'edim, interrogation of the witness. After the judges have intimidated the witness and warned them, they remove everyone from the room, leaving the eldest witness. They interrogate him by the incident in which he is testifying. If he did not see the incident in question, the testimony is worthless. Afterward, the second witness is brought into the room and interrogated, and if the statements are found to be congruent, the court discusses the case. That's the Rabbin Sefer Shoftim Hilchot 8 17:2, Shulchan Aruch Shemeshbat 28 9 8 to 9. Each are found to be congruent, and the judges then discuss the matter. If the opinion of the judge are divided, as two judges say the defendant is exempt from payment, and one says he is liable to pay, he is exempt. If two say he's liable and one says he's exempt, he's liable. If one says he's liable and one says he's exempt, or even if two judges deem him exempt or two judges deem him liable, the other says I do not know, the court must add more judges and they will according to the majority opinion. After the court has discussed the matter, if they have not reached a consensus, the verdict follows the majority. If one of the judges is uncertain and says I do not know, even the other two share an opinion, the court must add two more judges and decide according to the majority. If the opinions are still even, they must add more judges until they reach the decision. After adding judges, even if one of the judges abstains, the ruling follows the majority of opinions. Rabbin Sefer Shoftim Hilchot Sanhedrin 8:2, Shulchan Aruch Mishpat 18:1. This is because the one who abstains is considered as though he is not a member of the court. After the judges finish the matter and reach a decision, they bring in the litigants. The greater judge says, so and so. After the court decided, when they bring in the listings and the president of the court proclaims, so and so you're exempt from paying, or so and so you are liable to pay. Let's see if it's Shokim Hilchot and Hedin 22:9, Shokim Hilchot Mishpat 19:1. So and so you're exempt from paying, or so and so you are liable to pay. But where is it derived that when the judge leaves the court room, he may not say, I deem you exempt and my colleagues deem you liable? It's very for a judge, even after the case is finished, to tell others what his opinion was in the discussion. One who does so is considered to be one who, about whom the verse states, one who goes about as a talebearer will seek his own for Sheriff from 127, Mishpat 19:1. What can I do? As my colleagues outnumbered me, consequently you are deemed liable. About this it is stated, you shall not go as a talebearer among the people in Leviticus 19:16. As it says, one who goes about as a talebearer will receive it, but one who is of a faithful spirit conceals the matter. Proverbs 11:13. The Mishnah adds this verse because from the first verse, you shall not go as a talebearer, it can be derived only that it's forbidden to slander another. This verse adds that one who reveals a secret is always considered a talebearer. That's Nahama Hayatas for Yom Tov. The Mishnah teaches that the judges intimidate the witnesses. The Gemara asks, what do we say to them? Before the witnesses testify, the judges warn them to tell the truth, explain to them the seriousness of false testimony, due to which famine precedents come to the words from the Shema, and the shame of false testimony and false witnesses are denigrated even by those who hire them. This is in accordance with the opinions of all the Amoraim in the discussion of Rabbi Sefer Sheva from Hilchot Edom 17:2, Shulchan Aruch Mishpat 28:7. Rabbi Yehuda says that this is what we say to them, as is stated, as clouds and winds without rain, so is he who boasts himself a false gift in Proverbs 25:14. The Maharsha explains that the court quotes this verse to warn the witnesses that they should depend on those hiring them to pay them for their false testimony, as they will cheat them and boast of a false gift. In other words, there will be no rain or no blessing from the deed if you lie. Rava said to him, if so, false witnesses can say to themselves that they don't have to worry about his punishment, according to the folk saying, 7 years there was a famine, but over the craftsman's door it did not pass. Even the witnesses are not farmers, they don't need to worry about the lack of rain. Consequently, they would disregard the concern. Rather, Rava said that we say this verse to them as a hammer and a sword and a sharp arrow shows a man who boasts false witness against his neighbor in Proverbs 25:18, meaning that a false witness will die prematurely. Rabbi Ashi said to him, here too false witnesses can say to themselves as folk saying, 7 years it was pestilence, but a man who has not reached his years did not die. Everyone dies at a predestined time. Therefore they would disregard this concern as well. The Gemara presents another suggestion. Rather, Rashi said, Natan Bar Mazutra said to me that we say to them that false witnesses are belittled even by those who hire them, and all the more so by others. As is written that Jezebel said that when she ordered witnesses to be hired to testify against Naboth, and set 2 men base fellows before him, and let them bear witness against him, saying, you curse God and the king. 1 Kings 21:10. Even Jezebel, who gave the orders to hire them, called them base fellows. The Mishnah teaches that if the witness said, the defendant said to me, it is true that I owe him, his testimony is disregarded unless he said the defendant admitted in our presence claimed that he owed him $200. The Gemara comments, this supports the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Yehuda says that Rav says the debtor needs to say to the witnesses to the loan, or in his admission that he owes the creditor, you are my witnesses, otherwise the testimony is not valid. It was also stated by Rabbi Abba says that Rabbi Yochanan says, if one said to another, I have $100 dinars in your possession, you owe me 100 dinars. And the other said to him, yes, and the next day the claimant said to him, give it to me. If the other then said to him, I was teasing you, I did not mean it was seriously when I said that I owed it to you, the respondent is exempt. Mashata and Ebacha. If one claimed of another in the presence of witnesses, you owe me 100 dinars. And the latter responded yes, and the former then took him to court. And the defendant can claim that he was cheating him. He is required by the law to take an oath of inducement, and he does not owe the money. Mishpat 88.1. This is also taught in the Bible. If one said to another, I have 100 dinars in your possession, and the other said to him, yes, and the next day came and said to him, give it to me. If the other then said to him, I was teasing you, the respondent is exempt, and moreover, the respondent is exempt even in the case where the claimant hid witnesses for the respondent. If the plaintiff hid witnesses, and the defendant admitted that he owes the plaintiff money, but added that he does not want to admit this before witnesses, if he claims in court that he was teasing the plaintiff, he is exempt, as this is not considered admission in the presence of witnesses. Mishpat 88.11. Behind the fence, so the respondent would not see him, and said to him, I have 100 dinars in your possession. And the respondent said to him, yes. And the claimant then said to him, do you wish to admit the debt in the presence of so and so and so and so? And the respondent said to him, I am afraid to do so, lest you compel me to go to judgment, where based on the testimony, you will be given the right to forcibly take the money from me whenever you want. But between you and me, I admit that I owe you. And the next day the claimant said to him, give me 100 dinars that you admitted to owing me. And the respondent said to him, I was teasing you. The respondent is exempt because he can claim that he stated his admission only to appease the claimant temporarily and did not mean to actually admit to owing the money, as he did not know that there were witnesses present. But the judges do not advance a claim on behalf of the inciter. Masis, inciter. This term refers to one who incites individuals and invites others to idol worship. It includes one who incites an individual to worship idols and one who incites a community to do so. Since incitement to idolatry is a serious offense, attacking the foundations of Judaism, the Torah commands concerning an inciter. Neither shall you pity him, neither shall you swear, neither shall you conceal him. Deuteronomy 13:9. The sages therefore rendered it is permitted in the case of an inciter to perform certain acts that are not prohibited in capital cases. For example, it is permitted to conceal witnesses, to observe the suspect, and even to interpret the committee to the presence in the presence of witnesses. Similarly, no special attempt is made in the trial of an inciter to find exonerating evidence. The punishment for incitement to idolatry is stoning. I wanted to accuse of inciting others to idol worship. The Gemara asked an inciter who admitted anything about it. The matter is not discussed in the Baita. The Gemara answers, the Baita is incomplete, and this is what it's teaching. If the defendant did not advance a claim and he was teaching the plaintiff, the judges do not advance a claim for him. In case the defendant can advance a claim that he is teaching the claimant, the court does not advance a claim for him. Some say that if he denies he made an admission, the judges can claim for him that he was teasing the claimant. I'm going to say for the bottom, apparently he stated his admission seriously, but in case of capital, even the defendant did not advance any claim on his own behalf, to advance a claim on his behalf. The judge did not advance a claim on behalf of the inciter. The Gemara asks, what is different about an inciter that the court does not seek to deem him innocent? Rabbi Hamabahanina says, I heard of this Rabbi here about Abba, that an inciter is different. As the most one concerning him, neither shall you spare, neither shall you conceal him, Deuteronomy 39. In this unique case, the court is not required to try to deem him innocent. Rabbi Shmuel Bar Naaman said, that Rabbi Yochanan said, from where is it derived that the judge does not advance a claim on behalf of an inciter? It derived from the incident upon which the snake attempted Eve, he was the first inciter. Rabbi Shimon says the snake could have advanced many claims. The Gemara then describes only one claim, not many claims. The Moshe explains that the snake could have also claimed that Eve caused her to transgress by adding to the prohibition. Had she not done so, she would not have heeded the snake on his own behalf, but it did not claim them. And for what reason did the whole of blessed be he not advance his claims for it, deeming the snake exempt from punishment, because the snake did not advance his claims itself? The Gemara asked, what could he have said? The Gemara answers, the snake could have said that it is not to blame, And when there's a contradiction between the statement of the teacher and the statement of the student, whose statement should one listen to? One should listen to the statement of the teacher. He says, God instructed Adam and Eve not even the fruit of the tree of knowledge. Adam and Eve should have heeded God's words and not those of the snake. Hizkiah says, from where is it derived that anyone who adds, subtracts, is derived from verse as stated that Eve said, God has said, you shall not eat of it, neither shall you touch in Genesis 3:3. Lo sochlim mimenu v'lo tegubo. According to Avot the Rabbi Natan, it was not Eve who had to prohibition he touching the tree, but rather Adam, and as a safeguard to Eve from the sin. This is called Eve to Earth. Whereas God had actually rendered prohibited only eating from the tree by not touching it, as is stated, but with true knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat of it. In Genesis 2:17, because Eve added that there was a provision against touching the tree, it showed her that touching it does not cause her to die, and she consequently sinned by eating from it as well. Rav Moshe says the idea that one who adds subtracts must be proven from here 2 cubits, and a time and a half shall be its length, Exodus 25:10. Without the letter Aleph at the beginning of the word Amatayim, it would be read Ma'atayim, which would mean 200 cubits. In addition to the Aleph, therefore, usage is termed to only 2 cubits. So Rashi, another example. So another example in verse 11, Ashtay Esrei curtains, Exodus 26:7. Without the letter I in the beginning of the phrase, it would read Shtei Esrei 12. Therefore, the additional letter ayin reduces the amount from 12 to 11. Abai said, with regard to the case of one who denies the debt to which he admitted the presence of hidden witnesses, the sages taught that he's exempt only in a case where he says, I was cheating, but if he says these matters never occurred, if the defendant asserts that he never admitted to the claim, and the other witness testifies that he admitted to it, he takes an oath of inducement and is exempt. He does not remember frivolous matters. In accordance with the opinion of Rav Papa, son of Rav Ahaba Ada, if he says he made an admission and does not claim that he was only teasing a claimant, but he claims now that he does not owe him, he is liable to pay him. Sefer Mishpatim, Hilchot Torah V'Nitan 6:6, Shulchan Aruch Mishpat 81:1, 21, and Shman Shachter. I never admitted to this. This defendant assumes the presumptive status of one who falsely denied his debt, as the witnesses heard his admission. Consequently, he is not judged to take an oath that he is exempt. Rav Papa, son of Rav Ahab Ba'anda, says, this is what we say in the name of Rava. The defendant is not rendered a liar because people do not remember all frivolous matters. Since the admission was not made seriously, perhaps the defendant forgot the incident, and therefore his denial of having occurred was not necessarily an outright lie. The Gemara relates. There was a certain man who hid witnesses in the canopy above his bed to hear the statement of another. That certain man said to him, I have 100 dinars in your possession. Allah said to him, yes. Claiming and said, let those awake and those asleep bear witness about you, hoping to induce him to agree this testimony. Now the respondent might assume that everyone was asleep, but Allah said to him, no. When the matter came to court, Kahana said, since he said no to him, his admission did not render him liable. The Gemara relates another instance. There was a certain man who hid witnesses and agreed to hear a statement of another. The certain man said to him, I have 100 dinars in your possession. I said to him, yes. And claiming then said that the living and the dead bear witness about you. The respondent said to him, no. And Shimon said, since he said no to him, his admission did not render him liable. Ravina said, and something of Papa said, and prove from it that with regard to which Yehuda says that Rav said, no one needs to say the witnesses of the admission, you are my witnesses. So Chashiyoma Atam Edai. If one makes an admission to another in the presence of witnesses they owe him money, and says to the witnesses, you are my witnesses, he cannot retract his admission. The halach is the same if the claimant said to the respondent that the latter owes him money, and the respondent said yes. This is according to the statement of Rav Yehuda, citing Rav Sefer Mishpatim Hilchot Torah V'Nitan 6:7, Mishpat 81:6-13, where there is no difference whether the debtor said it, and there is no difference whether the creditor said it, and the debtor remains silent. It is that the reason the sages deem the purported debtor exempt in the above cases It not explicitly said no, either he did not accept the witnesses, but he had he remained silent, his admission would indeed rendered him liable. The Gemara is was the man whom people called a cav of debts, as everyone claimed debts from him, who once said, "Who can claim debts from me other than so and so and so and so? I don't owe money to as many as assumed." Those whom he admitted that he owed came and took him to judgment for allowing that money to claim what he owed them, and he was put in court that his admittance was in jest. Rav Naaman said, "A person is prone to make false statements so as not to make himself appear sated. If someone made an admission in the presence of witnesses that he owes money to a certain individual, and the latter never before demanded money from him, and after he made the admission, the individual took him to court, whereupon the alleged debtor claimed he did not owe the plaintiff, and he said he did only so as not to pay well, his claim was accepted. The Ramah adds that there is no difference in regard between a poor person and a rich person. Even if he does not claim that this is the reason he said it, the court advances his claim on his behalf. The plaintiff was present at the admission. The Rambam holds that the defendant cannot claim he said so only as to not appear wealthy. The Torah disagrees, maintaining that as long as the plaintiff never made the claim before the admission, the defendant can claim that he said only so not to appear wealthy. The infamous part of Hilchot Torah V'nitan 6-7 Mishpat 8-14. It is possible that he might say falsely in public that he owes money in order that he should not be considered wealthy. Therefore, as long as he has not made a proper admission that he owes a specific sum to a specific individual, he is not liable. The Gemara later was a certain man whom people called a mouse that lies on dinars. And dinari. Some commentators explain that just as a mouse does not need money, so too that man has a lot of money that he does not need. So that people will not criticize him for his miserliness. He said that his money was needed to repay debts, that he owed so and so and so, and he was a miser who did not benefit from his money, like a mouse that sits and safeguards gold dinars. This man said on his deathbed, so and so and so claimed dinars from me. After he died, they came and sued the heirs. They came to judgment for Rabbi Shmuel, son of Rabbi Yossi. He said to them, when we say a person is prone to make false statements so as not to make himself appear sated, this statement applies to an admission during his life, but after death, on his deathbed, it does not apply. Rather, we presume he told the truth. The heirs paid half the amount of the claim. The claimant then sued them for the other half. He came to judgment for Rafia. The Meiri asked how Rabbi Chia was allowed to contradict the ruling of Rabbi Shmuel, so Rabbi Yossi, as Allah says that if someone asks a question to Allah authority, and that's a rule that is forbidden, though it is not allowed to deem it permitted, he answers that perhaps it applies only during the lifetime of the first authority, or the locality of the first authority. Furthermore, perhaps it applies unto which matter, not the mental matter. The Meiri. We have said to them, just as a person is prone to make false statements so as not to make himself appear sated, so too a person is prone to make false statements so as not to make his sons appear sated. Even when a minister understands that his money, his children can claim that he did so, only that they will not appear wealthy according to the opinion of here and of now. V'nitan 6-7 Mishpat 8-14. One might claim falsely on his deathbed he has money so that his children will not be considered wealthy. Therefore, there is no room for a claim against the heirs. The heirs then said to him, if so, let us go and overturn the form of it and retrieve the amount that we pay the claimants. We have said to the elder, I Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Yossi, only actually ruling in this case. It is not my part to overturn his ruling. Although an erroneous verdict can be overturned, the ruling of Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Yossi was not erroneous, and simply employing different judgment to regard to the issue of whether or not one is prone to make false statements, so as not to make his sons appear sated, says the Rosh. If one made an admission in the presence of two witnesses that he owes money, and they performed that formal act of acquisition to him, if he made the admission in the presence of two witnesses and they performed one of the standard acts of acquisition, they can write a promissory note and give it to the one to whom he admitted owing the money. 39.7. To verify the admission, the witnesses can write a record of admission and a document, sign it, thereby granting the creditor more rights. But if they did not perform a formal act of acquisition, they may not write a record of admission and a document, as the debtor presumably wants a loan to retain its status as a loan by all agreement, with a true right to the creditor than a loan with a promissory note. If he made an admission in the presence of 3 witnesses and they did not perform a formal act of acquisition with him, even if the one making the admission convened 3 people and made the admission in their presence, if they did not perform a formal act of acquisition with him, they cannot write a document and give it to the one to whom he admitted owing money. Again, found a lawsuit against him in the established court, and the defendant admitted to the debt in that court. He can write a document even if they did not perform an act of acquisition. This is according to the opinion of Maravasi. The last of in this discussion, Ram said from his bottom, Hilchot Manitan 7:2-3 Maravami says they can write a record of admission in a document. The admission made when the 3 individuals are to the court. In the court to write its verdict, and Maravasi says they may not write it in a document. However, the debt intended for them to serve only as witnesses, not as a court. There was an incident in which a person admitted his debt before 3 witnesses, and Rav was concerned for this opinion of Maravasi, and ruled they may not write a record of the admission. Rav Bar Hava says, with regard to this document of admission, sometimes we write it and sometimes we do not write it. If 3 witnesses were gathered and sitting when the debtor made the admission before them, we do not write it, as perhaps he did not intend for them to serve as a court. But if the debtor gathered them, we write the document of admission, as the fact that he took care to bring 3 people and not just 2 proves that he intended for them to serve as a court. However, says, even if he gathered them, we do not write, unless he says to them, be my judges. Mahabharasi says, even if he says, be my judges, we do not write it, unless they establish a place for judgment and send messages and summon him to court. Once the entire procedure of admission in court is implemented, the debtor may not have intended that they serve as a court with regard to this matter. If he made an admission with regard to movable property, movable property differs halachically from immovable property, i.e. land in many ways. Certain acts of acquisition are effective only with regard to movable property and not with regard to land. Similarly, the acts of acquisition that are effective with regard to land are generally ineffective with regard to movable property. In a lawsuit, the listeners can not be required to take an oath by total unless property in dispute is movable. According to the Talmudic law, movable property may not be collected in payment for debts against borrower's will, although again ruling based on certain Talmudic precedents permitted collecting payment from the heirs of a debtor even for movable property. The halacha of exploitation applies only to movable property with regard to the halacha of the state of documents and slaves, the same as that of land, even though they are in fact movable. And the heirs, and the witnesses perform a formal act of acquisition with him, they can write the record of admission in a document, but if they do not perform a formal act of acquisition, they may not write a record of the admission. But if you made an admission with regard to land, the halacha that witnesses may not write the document of admission applies only to money or movable property. When it admits that the land in his possession belongs to another, even if the admission is only put of 2 witnesses, and even if they did not perform an acquisition, they can write a document of admission. 39.8, and they did not perform a formal acquisition with him. What is a halacha? The committee discussed difficult to its passage. The monetary debt can be collected from any property, so that only if the debt is recorded in a document. By contrast, land owed to another can always be collected regardless of whether or not a record of admission is written. What then be significant for the writing of a record of admission? Now, and of what relevance is the ruling that may that witnesses may not write one? One answer is that once a record of admission is written, he meant the one who made the admission then buys the land back from the one to whom he owes it. He will have to safeguard the deed of sale. That this can produce the document of admission and retake the land. If the record of admission is not written, he does not need to worry about this. Notice the amendment's ruling is that there is a principle that a document will be written only by the instruction of the one given to the other party, therefore, without explicit instruction, the witness may not write it. When another commentary explains the reader and Maimon holds that the record of admission may not be written, is that the individual may be worried that if many documents against Asad are produced, people will assume that he is pressed for money and the road Asad will go down. Manzotti disagreed, as in his opinion, this concern exists only with regard to the deed. With regard to deeds of gifts, people may assume that he is very wealthy if he can give out such gifts. It is considered as though an act of acquisition was performed, as land is not always available for collection. Mama says they may not write it. Mazut says they may write it, and Nocha is that they may write it. Rabbi Appa happened to come to Damhara. Rabbi Dimi Bar Huna of Damhara said to Ravina, if one makes an admission that he owed real property to that extent, i.e. it is available to be taken immediately was halacha, it shouldn't be considered like land. That is similarly available for collection, and therefore the witnesses can write a record of the admission. Ravina said to him, it is considered like land. Ravashi says, since it still has collection, i.e. it has not been physically transferred from one party to the other, it is not considered like land, and the witnesses may not write a record of admission unless the debtor asks them to write it. With regards to the document of admission, in which the following statement was not written, the document of admission in which the following statement is not written, write a deed and give it to a creditor is still valid, as witnesses presumably do not sign a document that is written according to halacha. Some authorities prefer not to allow such document to collect that Roman safe in bottom. He, the one making the admission, said to us, write a deed and sign it and give it to the creditor. Abai and both say that made to Yehu, when the statement accompanies the introduction of the statement made by two or Moraim, is the two sages quoted agree on the issue despite the fact that they generally at odds with no halachic understanding. Now this is the case in which the principle of Reddaka is applicable. As Reddaka says, there is a presumption, hadaka. This statement is frequently used in halacha with different meanings, depending on the context. In general, it means an accepted presumption based on facts, such as custom or people's behavioural tendencies. For example, one of the presumptions are an agent carries out his agency, and children who are treated as family members are in fact the parents' offspring, unless the facts prove otherwise. These presumptions are accepted as truth, and corporal punishment may be administered based on these presumptions. The witnesses do not sign on the document unless the deal is transacted with each party being an adult. In ha'edim chosmim al hashtar ela al imkain nasa gadol. If a document that is challenged by the claimant that the giver or the seller was a minor at the time, and the witness signed on the document also say so, and is not accepted. It's because there is a presumption that the witnesses sign the document only if the transaction was performed according to halacha. And you now retract the testimony of their own signatures. Roman Sefer Kinyan, 29:16, Shulchan Mishpat, 638 and 235 in the comment number. Even if it is not mentioned explicitly in the document, and the witnesses verify this. If the principle of the document is not written by a scribe, and same witness unless they know that the action to which it attests was performed appropriately. In light of this, the fact that a certain detail is missing from the wording of the document does not prove that the detail did not take place, as the action was presumably performed properly. Consequently, the document of admission, like in the sense that he said to us, write the deed and sign it and give it to the creditor, is valid. Rav Papi says, objects to this, and suddenly it is Rav Hunas and Rav Yeshua raises this objection. Is there anything that we the sages do not know that the scribes of the court do know? Since not all the sages are aware that the witnesses of an admission cannot write a deed of admission unless the one making the admission asks them to, scribes certainly cannot be expected to ensure that this condition is fulfilled. The Gemara relates that Abai scribes were asked were they aware of this halacha, and they answered that they were aware of it, while the scribes were also asked if they were also aware of it. Apparently, since writing documents is the professional scribes are aware of the relevant halachot. The Gemara recounts a certain document of admission in which it is written that the record of proceedings that took place with the witnesses, and all the formulations of an enactment of the court were written in it. And that's the beginning of Daf 30. Hope this made sense. I'm working on trying to make it explain it more rather than reading. It's my first time through, so I'm still trying to understand it as I go. Hope you benefited and have a great day. All the best. Bye.